All right, sports fans, welcome out to another episode of the Gridiron 64 podcast. This will be episode number 17. It'll be the breakdown of round 4 of the playoffs. We have 20 games, and boy, there were some good ones. I tell you, there were some surprises and some games that really shocked me. I'm sure it shocked the crew as well. But before we get going, I'd like to be able to introduce the guys that are here with me on the crew. We got the Z-Man, Johnny Zavala. Z-Man, how you doing?
Doing good.
All right, ready to talk some football?
Yeah.
And then, of course, we got the big T, Tony Pena. Tony, how you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. Ready to talk football. Ready to get it going.
All right, guys. Like I said, man, we had some surprises. We're gonna jump right into it. We had 20 games on the GI64 schedule. The first one we had was Centerville Tigers going up against number 3 Timpson Bears. Timpson takes the huge win, 48-13. Johnny, I'll go with you first. Your thoughts on this game? Timpson's moving on, and they're going to have a tough game next week. We'll preview that game later on in the week. But for this game, not much of a fight for Centerville as Timpson takes the big win.
Yeah, Timpson seems to be the team that everybody's talking about, the give Shiner game. There's been a lot of talk about their running back that they have over there. The quarterback did pretty good. He was 6 for 11, 136 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He also had 150 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns himself. Apparently, this is the playmaker they have on their end, and there's a lot of online trash talking going on between they could take on Shiner real easily.
Well, I'll tell you this, Johnny, before I go over to Tony. Now, you saw Shiner, and we're not going to preview this game, but I just want to get your thoughts because none of us have really seen Shiner play. You were at the Refugio Shiner game. You got to see the Brooks brothers. You got to see that Shiner team. How impressive did they look to you?
Big playmakers, I could say that.
Can anybody beat them? Or are they? I mean, you play the game, but do you see anybody? I know we haven't seen them, but this team, to me, after the way they dismantled Refugio, I think they could win the state title again.
I don't know. There's a lot of trash talking about this Timpson team too. They're trash talking a lot over there.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a good one. Tony, I'll jump over to you.
Because they're saying both Refugio and Shiner had a weak schedule.
Well, Tony, I mean, you and I talked about this with Steve on the last podcast. We talked about the strength of schedule, and we've talked about, Refugio having really one tough opponent. They really kind of gave him a run, which was Edna. But Refugio's done this before. This is not the first time they've done this. I mean, they're just more advanced than what their district is, right? So this isn't new to them to just whip on everybody all the way to the state title. So it really hasn't been anything that they haven't done. But in this year, playing the Shiner team with the Brooks brothers, a lot of people talked about these guys and how tough they were going to be. You would think that maybe Refugio would have wanted to preseason schedule some tougher opponents. They did not. But we'll kind of break down that game later on. But your thoughts on this Timpson team, because they beat Centerville here pretty easily. They really didn't struggle a lot with this team. Your thoughts?
Well, I didn't see Shiner play, but I tell you what, I can't wait to see these two guys match up. Timpson put it to him real hard. I mean, they didn't give him a chance. Well, I'm lying. It was 14-13 at the half, and then they come out and they just destroyed Centerville. So I'm not really sure what adjustments were made at halftime, but it seems like Timpson came out with adjustments made, and Centerville just wasn't ready for it, and they ended up really taking over the second half. Now, we'll say that with that win, that does push them to number one. You know what I mean? Now, Timpson's number one in the state. Now, the question was, do you think that they could be Shiner, or can Shiner win state? I tell you what, I was looking at the record, and we talked about strength of schedule. And I do, I talked about it with Steve last week. I do believe that that does play a role in the effectiveness of how you perform in the postseason. We've said many times you don't pick your schedule, you just play it. But I do believe that picking those tougher teams in the preseason does help. And one of the things that I was looking at is Timpson played the number three team in state, Waskom, in Division Three, 3A Division One, and they beat them pretty good. And that team is still in the playoffs, and they're going to the state semi. So when you look at a team like Timpson picking teams like that to play in the preseason, and they go in and really dominate their district, and here they are now, and they got to face Shiner. Do they got them next, or will they play them in state, Johnny?
Yeah, they got them next.
They got him next. Okay. So, Shiner really hasn't played anyone, and we talked about that. Neither has Refugio, and till they played each other. Of course, Shiner shows up and makes that look lopsided. I don't want to get too many details into that game, but Timpson, Tipson, you know, they have played tough teams and they have dominated throughout the whole season. So, I tell you what, we're not previewing that game right now, but I tell you what, Shiner's going to have their hands full, and I believe that strength of schedule does play a big part in that.
Well, we will get to that game this week when we preview. It'll definitely be on our game that we'll preview. But Timpson seems to be a team. So I guess what we could say right here, right now, is we're not going to say Shiner's a sure thing, right? It's not a sure thing that they're going to win it,
Nope.
because there's still this Timpson team, a really good Timpson team that they've got to get through. So it's not like last year, whoever wins between Refugio and Shiner basically going to run in and get the title. There is still a team out there that Shiner needs to worry about, because if they don't play their A game, this Timpson team that's already beaten a good Waskom team this year is still out there, and they're hungry and they want a title. So we'll see what happens. Then the next game we'll break down is Refugio, number one Refugio against number two Shiner. Guys, I'm just going to chime in here real quick and say I was really shocked to score. I was keeping track of it on mobile app, on my mobile app, and by halftime I was like, okay, Refugio will come back, and they'll make it a game, and it just got worse. And we knew that the Brook brothers were good, but I got to tell you my point. Refugio's not that bad to me. They're just not that bad. Now, did they have a better game plan? Maybe. But, I would have to say that, Refugio's never been beaten that I can remember in recent history this bad. They've gotten beaten, but not this bad. So I wasn't at the game. I really can't comment. I didn't see the game from the beginning to the end. Johnny will be able to comment more on that because he was there. But to me, I didn't see this coming from Refugio. If they were going to lose, I thought this would be a close game, guys. And the one thing that I'll say, in 3 years, with this game being played and the two previous games, right, Shiner, to me, has dominated Refugio, because 2 years ago, when Refugio won that state title, they needed a lot of things to go their way. The ball had to bounce their ways, and it did. A lot of things went their way toward the end of that game to be able to win. So they beat Shiner, and they win state. But people that I spoke to that was at that game said that on that football field, and these were people that were cheering for Refugio, said, look, we won the state title, but Shiner kicked our butts all over that football field. It just, they continued to play. They had a great quarterback, Refugio and Ochoa, and they needed the ball to bounce their way a few times at the end of the game, and it did. And, they were able to get the win out, continue to win the next couple of games and go to state. But last year, Shiner beat Refugio and goes to the state title. And this year, they really put a whipping on them. So really, technically, in the last 3 years, Shiner has really put it to Refugio on that football field. So Tony, I'll go to you first. man, what does Refugio have to do? I mean, what happened in your mind? What happened to the Bobcats? You know, we can point to a lot of things, strength of schedule, but these guys, to me, we've had Coach Cox, and it doesn't take away from the season and the great players and the great program that Refugio is, because to me, Tony, this is motivation for Refugio to come out next year and kick everybody's butt, you know, because they're going to hear this for the guys that are coming back all summer and the rest of this year. They can't wait to get back on that football field to prove that they are a team that can win the state title. But for this game, what in your mind, what was it about Refugio? Were these guys just not ready to play? Because to me, it looked like Shiner, from what I could see, was just running up and down. There was a lot of missed tackles. They didn't seem like they were hustling. They were throwing the ball, and you know, it just didn't seem like they were in. They never got it going. So in your mind, what was it? Was Shiner just that better, or did Refugio not come to play?
Well, I think Refugio really wanted this game. I mean, Refugio, you know, they have a great football program down there, a great winning tradition down there. And you know, I'm pretty sure they have a bad taste in their mouth from losing last year. So I know they really wanted this game, but um, you know, it's one thing to want it and one thing out another thing to go out there and take it. And Shiner wasn't backing down. You know, Shiner hit him in the mouth on the ground, in the air, defensively. You know what I mean? I was talking to Johnny and you know, he said that, you know, they blitzed the quarterback all night long and you know, if you can't change what you're doing to get them to do something else, then you know, it's not going to go your way, and you have to be able to make adjustments. You go in with the game plan, but when that's not working, you got to be able to have a show a different dimension, and that's what we talked about. You know, Refugio is known for big play, throwing long touchdowns and scoring quick and when you play against a defense like Shiner, you have to be able to do something different. Like you have to establish something different, gain some kind of control of the game, and that's just something that they never did. And Shiner, you know, they could run the ball all day long until they get stopped, and that wasn't, you know, and they had control. They had control of the ball, they had control of the clock, and you know, the ball rode their way, and that's you know, that's what happened. You know, we talked about you know, being able to have more than one dimension, and Refugio just came out one dimensional and didn't make that adjustment ever. And you know, I wasn't there, Johnny was there. Maybe they did try to do something different, but from what it looks like, it doesn't look like they made that adjustment, and Shiner got the best of them. So
But Tony, I'll ask you this before I go to Johnny. Refugio's played these guys the last. This is going to be the third year. I mean, it's they know each other very well. It's not like you're going to play this team for the very first time. You know the Brooks brothers. You know what they're capable of doing. You know that defense. You know that. I mean, if you're Refugio, you know what this team wants to do. I don't think they did anything different. And we'll get with Johnny here in a minute. But to me, it seemed to me, and I don't like to say this because I didn't play the game, and you know, but I'm just talking from a fan's point of view. You know, I thought that Refugio had a good opportunity to win this game. I picked Refugio to win state. I thought the Shiner would come in. I thought Refugio was the better team. I did. You know, at the beginning of the season, I said that because just what they had coming back, and I thought they missed some opportunities last year. So, you know, for these guys to come out and for Shiner to dominate them in the fashion that they did defensively and offensively, I just didn't see that coming. You know, Johnny, I'll go over to you. You were at the game. You saw what Shiner was doing. I know that Refugio, I was told, started a different quarterback. They did not start Heseltine. They put him in a little later. They brought in a younger guy. I believe it was the freshman quarterback he could throw. It looked like Refugio wanted to throw the ball. It wasn't there. I don't know if they made any adjustments. But what was shocking to me, like I told Tony just now, just the dominance. I mean, just the way that they came out. I mean, Refugio had to know what Shiner had, yet Shiner came in pumped, ready to go. Refugio came out flat. Your thoughts on this game?
Let me back up to the whole atmosphere getting into this game. You know, this was the game of the state. You know, this was huge. You know, everybody was there. You had all the college D1 recruits there. You had Mr. Texas Longhorn head coach even there on the sidelines. You know, he was on the track, walking up and down the track. So this was a great atmosphere, and this is, for a stadium that hosts, they have it for 10,729 seat people to sit, and this was standing room only. People were crowding around the whole stadium. This was huge. Just the atmosphere was there. I mean, you're talking about two schools that don't even combine for 500 total students, and you have over 10,000 people at this game. So the atmosphere was there. And the way the game started, it looked like it was going to be a great game. Refugio stopped them. They punted the ball. I was all like, okay, so, here we go. I think it was probably Refugio's third play from the line of scrimmage. They threw an interception. The quarterback was pressured, and that's the way it was for the entire game. I mean, it was probably like the third play of the game. He threw an interception. It didn't take long for them to score. I mean, they only needed like 10, 15 yards to score. That's when the bigger Brooks put it in. So the momentum was already going their way. It didn't take them long to score again. Let's just say this. They had 5 consecutive possessions, and they scored all 5 times and only 13 plays. That's how quick this game got at hand. Very quick. I mean, it was awkward just seeing, Refugio getting blown like this, just down, down, down. It just seemed like they were going to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. But it was a lot of pressure, a lot of blitz on that quarterback. There was no adjustment that I saw up into the second half. I even told the people that were around me, I said, you know what? Unless Refugio start throwing little short passes to the outside, or little like dumps to the tight end, I don't even think they even have a tight end. I think they just line up with 4 receivers anyways. They could do something, but they're relying on the big play, and that big play wasn't there. I mean, the quarterback would drop back, and he's waiting for the receivers to get downfield. And before you know it, he has everybody in the space because he has, 5, 6 people, going at him. The lineman could only do so much. And he had no backfield to block any blocker. He had no help in the backfield because they're all going for going for a route also. So he was pretty well dead meat every single play he dropped back. There was a play, like I said, in the second half, like I think the first time because they got the ball in the second half. And I too thought the same thing. I said, you know what? Second half, we could see what can happen. He threw a little out pass to the sideline right there. Receiver got maybe like 7 yards. I guess that wasn't enough for them because I don't think they went for that. I didn't think they went to that play for the rest of the game until I left. They had a little running back. I didn't jot down his name. I just remember he's number 4. Real short little kid. Very, 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 very he had the heart to be out there. I think he did not give up to the very end. I think he ended up scoring both Refugio's touchdowns, in fact. That boy, he was the only one, I believe, just went all out. He went through that line. He was fighting for yards. He would get tackled. He would get hit hard. Hard. And he'll still be bouncing off,
Isaiah Bland.
Is that, yeah, that's what it was. Yes.
Isaiah Bland.
Yeah, that boy
5'3", 145.
I told you he was small. Yeah, but he was like, dude, he had the heart, dude. If I had a team, I wish I had a heart. Every guy had a heart like he did, because that kid, for as small as he was, that boy just drove and drove. He would carry a pile. That's how strong he was, and it was very exciting to watch him play. I think he got maybe like 20 carries, maybe 111 yards. I think if Refugio would have stayed with him, I think that would have kept the ball away from Shiner, but they only went to him not so often. I know 20 carries is a lot, but in a game like that, you want to keep that ball away from Shiner, especially how fast they were scoring. It didn't matter what part of the field they were going to score. So I would have liked to have seen him give him like 40, 50 carries that game. Just they were moving with him. He was going. He was going to get yards. He was going to any way he could get yards. I know he was a little frustrated. He had a few drop catches out in the open, but that was a little thing that happened to Refugio. There were some drop passes out there, but I just have to say that was the only thing I think that hurt Refugio was all that pressure in their face, and they just kept on trying to go downfield. It wasn't there for them. It just wasn't there for them. They only had 224 total yards. That was their lowest in the entire season. Also the 14 points was also the lowest of the season. Shiner, 587 yards rushing. Oh, Mr. Doug Brooks had 180 yards, 9 carries, and 2 touchdowns, while his brother Dalton Brooks Jr. 377 yards on just 22 carries and 6 touchdowns. Seeing his 83-yarder and his 86-yarder and his 71-yarder, his 71, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty positive. His 71-yarder and 83-yarder came on back-to-back carries, pretty much. And I believe the 71-yarder was the most impressive run I ever seen. That boy just ran one side of the sideline and completely ran across, like, no joke, man. Very, very exciting player to watch. He's a four-star national player only as a junior. I mean, this guy's getting eyed by all kinds of D1s.
So
and
Johnny,
he's listed as a receiver to top it all off.
So one of the Brooks brothers is coming back. Douglas is a senior, but Doug's
a senior. Dalton's coming back.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And the cool thing about this, these two guys were already like stars before they even started this thing. That little series, Friday Night Tights, they were on that movie series. They played for the Yoakum Outlaws. I don't know if y'all ever watched that Friday Night Tights.
Seen it.
Yeah, they're both on there, and their dad is the coach for that team. So their dad basically brought them up, and I didn't find this out till like I was reading some articles this weekend, and like, wow, really? That's pretty cool. It was an article. I think it was just comments back and forth on some Facebook post that I saw, and I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, these guys are just ready out, pretty well stars out there before they even got to high school. But man, I gotta say those two boys were highlight reel. I told a few people it just felt like I was watching Bo Jackson and Jerome Bettis out there. That kid had just speed. And the thing is like Dalton really he wasn't the type where like he would break tackles. I mean, these guys, the linemen just completely had just awesome blocks, and just his speed just got to the outside, and he was full board getting to the line of scrimmage, and yeah, you knew he was gone. Most of his touchdowns, I think out of his 6 touchdowns, well, I don't know about the 2 yards and 2 yards and 12 yards, but his 71, 83, and 86, he went untouched. He was gone. I mean, and then the other one, Doug's just pure power. I mean, it's hard to bring that. There was one play on my camera, I got like a little screen frames all the way down, man. It's just fun that I just took those pictures. Seeing a big old boy running, I think it was one of his, I think he had like a 50-yard carry in that first quarter. And man, seeing that boy run, I would have not get in front of that boy. Yeah, he was moving. He was gone. It was just play over tackle, and he was moving. But it was very exciting watching these two players, and whether they'll get to the state, I mean, I don't know, but they went with them last year, and they put a big show in the state championship last year too. Yeah. Dalton won getting the MVP for offense, and his brother Doug getting the MVP for defense, and that's what does get looked at as a defensive lineman for colleges at his level.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal, man. We got to take our hats off to Shiner, even though I was going for Refugio. Shiner came to play, man, and they got to win. The boys are ready to play. Seems like offensively and defensively they had a good game plan, and you got to go out and execute. And they did. I think for Refugio, we're not accustomed to seeing down here Refugio getting beat like that, so it's kind of shocking, right? But I think for the guys of Refugio, we know Refugio's going to come back. They're not going to take this well, but I think this is a good motivation for these guys. Give me a second. To come back next year and get that state title. We had Coach Cameron on. He said that the well isn't dry down in Refugio. They got a lot of talent coming. I think these guys can use this as motivation because I know this is not gonna end well. These guys can't get back to get on the field. This is not what Refugio football is all about. But every now and then you come across a team and they do this to you, right? Not often, but it happens. So this will be a good motivation for Refugio, and I expect Refugio will come back next year and they'll be ready to win another state title. They'll make another run. The next game is game 3 on the GS64 schedule at Chilton. I hope I'm saying this right. Pirates going up against the number 1 Mart Panthers. The Panthers take the big win, 56 to 10. Johnny, you had Mart. Tony had Mart as well. So I'll go to Johnny first, man. Your thoughts? Mart number 1. We've seen this team up in the state title. A game up in Dallas a few times in the last couple of years. Talk a little bit about this game, and does Mart have an opportunity to get another state title?
Yeah, I couldn't go against Mart. They're talking about experience being at the state title, So it was hard going against the number 1 like that, and yeah, it was pretty well an easy game for them. I mean, they had 489 total yards in this game, so what a way to go further into the playoffs. I mean, at this time of the year, I mean, these lopsided scores, man, it's just wow.
I know. It's kind of crazy, Tony. It seems like Mark's well on the way. There's less. I mean, there's still going to be some tough teams. They've still got to play another game, and then they got to play another game to be able to bring the title home. I would say that Mart is very experienced at this time of year. They've been up in Dallas before. I've seen them play before, so they have a good program out there. I don't know who else they've got to play, but it looks pretty much like they've got a good opportunity to bring another title back to their community. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm used to watching Mart and state playoff games on Fox Sports. They're no strangers to being in the game, whether they win or they lose. Yeah, I mean, Johnny hit it right. I mean, man, we're in the 4th round and we're seeing blowouts like this. It's kind of crazy, but at the same time, it really says how good these teams are now. Because to get there, the road's not easy. No matter what your schedule is during the regular season, once you get into the playoffs, it's not easy. And for them to be getting wins like this is just crazy. I really don't see a lot in their way. They got Fall City next. Fall City has a kind of a close game with Burton last week, so we'll see. I'm not really sure how good Burton is though. But we'll see. But I look for Mart to win another state title this year.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you guys. I think Mark's going to go ahead and take another one. It looks that way. Number 4 on the GI64 schedule, you have number 6, Fall City Beavers going up against Burton Panthers 20. So Fall City gets that win. You heard Tony talk a little bit about who they'll be playing next. These 2 teams that we just talked about will be meeting the winners. Tony, your thoughts on Fall City beating Burton? Pretty good. About 14 points, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a decent playoff score. I would expect a score like that. Much less the March score. So again, I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about Burton. Uh, but Fall City's another one of those towns that they don't have a lot of state titles, but they're very competitive. I mean, they've been there before, but Mart's really known for being in that game. Yeah, it's gonna be a good matchup between them, but Fall City's not gonna back down. Should be some really good football. Looking to see what they do.
Johnny?
Yeah, like Tony said, this is more a competitive, fourth round game. 14 points. That could go either way at any time point of the game. Anything could happen at 3 minutes left in the game with 14 points. Um, but yeah, this could be a little bit competitive game with Mart and Fall City. Fall City did rush for 358 yards this game, so with their rushing attack, it could do something with Mart. Slowing down that 50 points games.
Yeah. Listen, when you get to the fourth round and you see the teams blowing other teams out, you kind of wonder how good that team really is, because these teams that get to the fourth round are pretty good. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't get there, right? So now we're going to go over to number 5, the fifth game on the Jazz 64 schedule. You have number 5, Lorena Leopards going up against Diboll. I guess I'm saying that right. The Lumberjacks. Lorena gets the huge win, 63-28. Both of you guys picked Lorena. Tony, I'll jump to you first again. What did you see in Lorena that you picked that made you think that they were going to win this game, because they wanted pretty big? This really wasn't a game at all.
Well, one of the things that I went by when I picked this game is I went with what I've been talking about pretty much the whole span of the playoffs, is strength of schedule. And we're talking about a Lorena team whose only 2 losses are to Franklin and China Springs. And when they played China Springs, they lost 21-13. So, and we already know what China Springs has done the last 2 weeks, taking out West Orange Stark last week and the number 1 team in the state 2 weeks ago in Carthage. So this team, and I didn't even have to look into the ball when I seen Lorena in the game they had against China Spring early in the preseason. I said, man, this is a good team. This, and I knew China Springs was good, but it wasn't until the postseason when I knew how good they really were. And when I went back and looked at it, and even Franklin's just beat Poth 66-0. And this is the other team they lost to by 7 points. You know what I'm saying? So I went straight with strength of schedule on this one. Uh, they had some pretty big wins, basically blowouts throughout their district play. But that preseason play, and that's what I talked about when we were talking about Refugio last week. It's if you know that your district schedule is not gonna get you ready for the playoffs, then you have to pick teams like that. And I really believe that. I know Steve didn't think that has anything to do with it, but I really believe that. You know what I mean? And they do have the opportunity to play Rockports and Centons and Portlands if they want to. You know what I mean? I know that there's some kind of negotiation between coaches and whatever for those preseason games, but I think Lorena put themselves in a position to really get this huge win in the fourth round. So I picked it based off of strength of schedule in the preseason because the regular, like I said, district play was basically like Refugio's district play and Shiner's district play. It's who you play to get here, and they played some tough teams and some close games.
I think it does help out as well. I think when you play a team, you know your team. The coach knows his team better than anybody else, right? So you know what you got. And if, okay, my defense kind of new, we're young. Let's put them through the test, right? So let's go out and play a Sinton. Let's go out and play a Rockport 14. Let me find out where this team's at. Let me find out what we need to work on, right? Because it's a young team. So sometimes you see coaches, I think, when they're young, the team's young, offensively or defensively, they want to put them out there. Let's see what they got. Let's see what we need to work on. most coaches that have seniors, a senior heavy group come back probably won't do that because I already know what I know what my guys are capable of. Right. So I don't know what goes into a coach's mind to see what, we've seen our own coach here in Rockport at times, really go against some strong teams. We play some strong teams I've seen in the past where, our preseason was heavy with the Ocampos and the Alice and, the teams and we were competitive in those games, right? But it really helped us in the playoffs when you saw us in the playoffs and you've seen it. So, I don't know what exactly goes into a coach's mind to make that final decision, but we've seen here in Rockport, we've seen our preseason get really, really strong at times, and then at other times it wasn't so strong. So I think coaches, they make those decisions based on their team and what he's got. Johnny, I'll go to you next, and your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, this is pretty well lopsided game, and that's exactly what what Tony saw. Those two teams that they played against. I just had to go with them. It's pretty obvious that they pretty well took this game pretty easily, and it makes me think about. I think they're going to get all the way with this one. I don't think Lago Vista pretty well impressed me that much like Lorena has this year.
Well, now we're going to go up to Lago Vista in game 6 of the Jesse Sports schedule. Lago Vista Vikings going up against Industrial Cobras. Now, Johnny, you picked Lago Vista. Tony, you picked Industrial. So I'll go to Johnny first. Johnny, you got the team that won this game. What? Because both of these teams were impressive. We covered a little bit of both of them. Lago Vista, Industrial. Industrial was a really good team, but what persuaded you, Johnny, to go with? What did you see in Lago Vista that you thought could get the win like they did over a good Industrial team?
Oh, dude, I don't remember. I don't remember. I want to say that what Tony was talking about was the strength of schedule. I just can't remember who they played against. And I knew they had 3 losses going into this game. I just don't recall what I saw.
They lost to LaGrange, which is a 4A Division 2 school. So they lost to a bigger school. They lost to LRA, and then they lost to Llano. They lost to Llano. I mean, Llano got knocked out by what's it called? London, didn't they? In the first round or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, they knocked London out. They knocked London out.
I'll be honest with you guys. I thought Industrial would win this game. I mean, I was with Tony. I thought Industrial would win this game over Lago Vista. I was very shocked. And now, like Johnny was talking about next week when these two teams meet, and like Johnny said, Lago Vista really didn't impress him enough to be able to beat a tough team like what they're fixing to play here. But Tony, I'll go to you. You went the other way. Like I thought, you went with Industrial. Of course, they don't get the win, but what did you see in Industrial that you thought they could actually beat Lago Vista?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they prepared themselves for the playoffs. I mean, they played Hallettsville in the preseason, and we know Hallettsville's history and the tradition that program has down there, and they lost that game by 4 points. And then they played Tidehaven, who made it to, I believe, the 3rd round, and they beat them 45-10. You know what I mean? They dominate their district. They lost to Edna, and then their last win before this game versus San Diego. San Diego is a team that we've been talking a lot about this year on the Gridiron in that 3A division, and they held San Diego to 6 points last week. So when I see a team progressively getting better from the start, like I said, they started off in week 2 losing 28-24 to Hallettsville, which is a really good football team, and then they just really dominate after that. You know what I mean? So that's why I picked them, and I believe that they even have some pretty decent quality teams in their district with Orange Grove and Palacios and Edna that I felt like prepared them for this game, and I just think that Lago Vista was ready. I mean, it wasn't a lopsided game. Hats off to Lago Vista.
Did Lago Vista play Hallettsville this season?
No, they did not.
There was a common game. I don't think those losses were the things that made me click on it. But I would have thought they had a common game in there. That one team won, the other team lost. And I thought when you said Hallettsville, I thought maybe that sounded pretty familiar, but
You think Lago Vista beat Hallettsville?
I thought it was something like that.
They beat Cameron Yo, which Cameron Yo is not the old Cameron Yo, so that wasn't impressive to me. Uh, no. They beat Edna,
That's
and
what it was.
Edna beat
That's what
them.
it was. I knew it was
And it was
something
a
like that.
it was a close game though. It was 33 to 29, but it was also a close game when Edna beat Industrial. So it was, that could have went either way.
That's
You
what
know
it
what I
was.
mean? Yeah.
That's what it was.
Um,
I knew when you mentioned the losses, I was like, that didn't really click for me. But yeah, that's that Edna thing. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, that could have swayed. That would have swayed me, but
yeah.
like I said, I just felt like their schedule prepared them more for the postseason, and they had impressive wins. It's not like they barely won, so that's why I went with Industrial.
Well, the next game on the Jazz 64 schedule, you have number 8, Waskom Wildcats going up against Daingerfield Tigers. Waskom gets the big win, 34-8. Tony, I'll jump to you first. We've been talking about Waskom. A lot of us here think that this would be the team that you got to beat. They're on their way to a state title. My question to you would be, kind of talk a little bit about the game, obviously, but do you think Waskom can win the state title, and who do they have next? I know we'll preview later on, but do you know who they've got next? Go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Wasco has been playing some really good football. But they got Franklin next. And Franklin is coming off a huge win. They blanked Poth 66-0. When we talk about these lopsided scores, that's one thing. But when we talk about a defense not giving up any points in the fourth round, that's another thing right there. Because I spoke about that earlier in the postseason as well. It's what defense is going to show up, because we already know that each one of these teams can score points, because that's how they got here. But it's what defense will dominate the field that's going to win these next two games. What defense is going to dominate? Doesn't matter about offense. You could win with a field goal. You could win 3-0. These teams are here because they can score points. But whose defense will show up? And Franklin right now, blanking a good Poth team, that says something about their defense. Franklin is another one of those teams that's not a stranger to being in the state title game. So Waskom will have their hands full in the state semis versus Franklin. But Waskom has been playing some really good football. So it should be a good matchup. And I say that, before I would have said that before this score that, between Franklin and Poth. But for Franklin, not only to score 66 points in the fourth round, but to give up none, it makes me kind of, think otherwise. I think Franklin might dominate this state semi as well, as good as I think Waskom is.
And here when we preview it later on this week, I'm anxious to see who you guys are going to pick, because this is going to be a good one. Johnny, I'll go to you. Franklin's number one. They're number one for a reason. Tony just talked about how they beat a really good team. I mean, when you can shut a team down in fourth round of a playoff, that's very impressive. I don't know what the stats were. I don't know what the turnovers, but the fact that a team doesn't score at least one touchdown or field goal on you says a lot about that team, and that's why you're number one. Coming back to this game, though, Tony also said Washington's been playing really good. We'll preview that game down the week, but for this game, your thoughts on Washington's win?
It's nothing compared to what Franklin did, but this is pretty well, being in the fourth round, this is pretty well a blowout too.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. That was where that game was pretty well out of hand. That 8 points could have came as a mercy points towards the end. We don't know about that. At least I don't know anything about that. But they have a little back over there named DJ Freister that he only carried the ball 9 times for 137 yards, scored twice. So right there, it just shows you that they're an explosive offense too. Maybe not 60 points plus, but a guy who only carried 9 times, scoring twice, 137 yards. That's pretty impressive to me. You know,
That's some John Chupi numbers right there.
yeah, it is. It is. So
Well,
they got some explosion over there too.
yeah,
They ain't going to the 5th round for nothing.
true. This is gonna be a good game, man. Like I said, I'm anxious to see who you guys are gonna pick when we do our preview. Game 8 on the GI64 schedule. We're talking about the Pope Pirates playing up against the #1 Franklin Lions. I think they're the Lions. You know, give me just a second. Franklin gets the big win, 66-0. So Johnny, I'll go to you first. We just talked about this game. Very impressive. Anything else you want to add on this Franklin win over a good Pirates team?
Well, it just seems like Franklin likes to spread the ball to everybody, kind of like what Rockport does. There ain't no one-dimensional player, you know. They had a freshman named Jaden Jackson. You know, he had a pair of touchdowns himself. You know, so they're even throwing freshmen in there to score touchdowns for them. I guess you can after leading so big. But I remember Franklin watching them last year in the state title game. You know, and it's just how they played. You know, made kind of stuck to me how how well they did. And I see this little town every time I go see my daughter in Tyler up there. I go to this little town and I just think, yeah, these are the boys that played the state title. You know, so. It's pretty neat, you know. It's just a small little town. How great a football team could become of this.
Yeah, football community. Some of these towns, man, in Texas, they're very, very small, man. But boy, they love their football. Tony, if you can hear me, you're up. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, like I said, no disrespect to Waskom because their defense only allowed 8 points. But Franklin is looking very impressive, and Johnny brought up Franklin in the state semis last year. They lost that game by 1, to Canadian. So this is a team that wants that state title. You know what I mean? This is a team that they want to go back and they want that state title. And they played Waskom in the state semis last year, and they beat them 13-14. So these two teams have a history. This game is a rematch to go to state. So Waskom wants this game just as bad because Franklin knocked them out. Okay. And Franklin ends up going on to the state title game and losing. But the way Franklin is playing right now, it's looking really good in their favor. I mean to score 66 points, like I said, in the 4th round of the playoffs is just super impressive. And then defense not giving up any. I said enough when we were talking about the game before, but I mean Franklin is looking really good right now, and I think that they have a really good chance this year.
Game 9. Game 9 on the GSC Sports schedule. I have Little Cypress, Mauriceville, the Bears going up against Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill gets the big win, 31-14. Tony, I'll stick with you. Chapel Hill gets the big win. I saw a little thing, guys, after this game. Boy, those guys from Little Cypress, Mauriceville, they really took this loss hard. I saw some good sportsmanship from Chapel Hill going in there with these boys, but this was a tough loss for the players. Every player when they lose takes it kind of rough, but this was a little bit like these guys came in there show some good sportsmanship. And Tony, getting back to the game, Chapel Hill really dominated this game over a really good Little Cypress Mauriceville Bears team. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, we talk about strength of schedule. I'm gonna probably say it a whole lot. Both of these teams had tough uh uh seasons, tough teams to play. And they both made it this far. Chapel Hill even had to beat a team that they lost to in district by 20 points. They beat them last week, no, 2 weeks ago before they played Little Cypress. They beat them in overtime. So, really, that's why I went with Little Cypress, just because that game where that that they lost, and then they came back and won by one touchdown in overtime. Uh, but when you go back, when you go and look at Little Cypress, I mean, man, they played West Orange Star. They played them tough. They played Kincaid. We talked about Kincaid. That's that's that private school Rockport play last year in the preseason. They blanked Jasper. I mean, they played some tough teams to get here, and that's why I picked Little Cypress. I imagine that the boys took it hard because it took a lot of fighting and clawing to get to this fourth round, and then to be over it. I could imagine what's going on in their heads because it wasn't an easy road. It was a tough road to get there, but it was for both teams. Uh, and we talked about defenses. We talked about defenses showing up, and you know, uh, Chapel Hill wanted it more. Their defense wanted it more. They only allowed those two touchdowns, and they end up winning the game. So hats off to Chapel Hill for pulling it off. And I mean, like I said, they had to beat a team that beat them in the regular season to get to that point, and they ended up capitalizing on that opportunity and winning the round four playoff game versus Little Cypress.
Johnny?
Yeah, Chapel Hill's running off a freshman quarterback. He's named Demetrius Brisbane. Um, he went 5 for 8 on the passing for 43 yards and a touchdown. But I think they use him on the legs with 119 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Again, a freshman they're playing with as a quick quarterback.
See, that's impressive to me. It's always been impressive to me, guys, when you're in the fourth round of a playoff, right, and you throw a freshman in there. That's got to be telling the coach. And we don't know, right, with teams like this that we don't stay up with week in and week out, how much did they prepare this freshman? I'm sure he's on the field. I'm sure they just don't throw him in a big game. I'm sure throughout the season they're prepping him, and he's playing some games. If he's not starting, he's playing some big roles, and they're developing him. But it's impressive to me every time you hear of a freshman coming up, playing in a game like this, and then they win. And in this case, he's already got the beat. He's already a danger to the defenses because you've got to be able to keep it, make sure that, he doesn't get out of the pocket because he can beat you with his speed or his running. So this kid's only going to get better. So to me, it's always impressive when I hear somebody say, man, this freshman, and I'm thinking, man, we're going into the 5th round, 4th round. You got a freshman in there, you put them in there because they're still young. Mentally, they're still very young. I mean, you're talking about, 15 years old, playing up against some 18-year-olds, and you're asking this kid to do a lot. And so the future always looks bright for a freshman, especially when you're playing in a big game in the 4th round, going into the 5th round. So congratulations to that freshman. We got to keep, Johnny, we got to remember that name, man, because I think we're going to hear that name next year and the next 3 years, man, when we talk on this podcast about the deep run playoffs, because I'm sure this team's going to be there again next year. So then we go to number 10 on the GI64 schedule, and you have Fredericksburg Billies going up against the number 1 team in the state of Texas, the LBJ Jaguars. Now, guys, I got to tell you, the Jaguars win this game 45-25, but I was kind of surprised on this score. I thought the LBJ, they've been blowing everybody out. I thought that they would blow out Fredericksburg. When they beat Cal Allen, I thought, wow, man, how good is this team with the Cal Allen? I kind of favored the Cal Allen had a bad game, and then you see them play the next week and they barely get a win. So you're like, whoa, they're going to get blown away by LBJ. That's not the case. Even though LBJ, scored 45, this was a pretty competitive game for Fredericksburg to be playing the number 1 team in the state of Texas. Johnny, I'll go to you first. First of all, I'm sure both of you guys, I think I saw picked LBJ, but were you surprised, Johnny, at the score?
I was surprised with Fredericksburg scoring, 25 on LBJ. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie on that. I think they were pretty well the sleeper team of the year in the state. Just we all saw what they did to Cal, and everybody expected Cal to be in this game against LBJ. That's where it was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen. So Fredericksburg took their spot, all the way down. So it wasn't no fluke how they got there, and I think they pretty well impressed me with how close they played against LBJ. Um, LBJ's quarterback Oscar Gordon. He went 15 for 23, 264 yards passing, and 5 touchdowns in the air. He also had 11 carries for 54 yards on the ground. Um, he's a commitment to Texas Southern, so he has a future ahead of him with that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be saying that I think LBJ, they should win the title this year. It's for these guys to lose. Of course, you never know, man. I mean, we've seen some upsets of the team, so that's why you play the game. Tony, I'll go to you next, man. Your thoughts? Fredericksburg is the team that did beat Cal Allen. I mean, this was surprising, like Johnny said, and I agree with Johnny 100%. I expected, and I talked about this on the podcast. I thought that Cal Allen would run into a tough team against LBJ, and I didn't think that they had enough to beat the number one team. But I thought that Cal Allen would be here to play this game. They were not. 2 weeks earlier, they were knocked out by Fredericksburg, and then they played last week, and they're not really impressive in that one, But then they come into this game, I think they're going to get blown out from the very beginning. That wasn't the case. This is very competitive. I would think 25 points against a really good LBJ team that's got a lot of speed, and then you hold them under 50 to make it 45-25. Very interesting game. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. I'm gonna say that I'm not surprised that they scored 25 points, and I'm not surprised that they held them to 50 points. Reason I say that is, if you look at the last few games that they played, Bernie scores 24, Calhoun scores 42 on them. You know what I mean? Uh, there. If you can remember LBJ last year, in that shootout, and I believe it was this game, maybe the semis. I don't remember I don't remember when, at what point. I think it was this game last year with Miller. That was a high scoring game. And we know we've seen Miller, and we knew what Miller was all about. They're just a scoring team. So this LBJ might be the exception when I talk about your defense is going to take you, as far as your defense is going to take you in the postseason. LBJ might be the exception because they had the same mentality that Miller has. We're not gonna stop you. We're just gonna score more points than you. And that's the way they win games. You know what I mean? That's the way they win games. Now, of course, they almost blanked Lavernia 3 weeks ago, only allowing 7 points. But Lavernia hasn't really had a spectacular season, and they haven't in a couple of years. But LBJ might be the only exception to what I say when I mean to what I mean when I say the defense in the postseason is what can get you to the championship. Because LBJ, I believe their program is built around scoring a bunch of points. And then Fredericksburg, on the other hand, they're more of a defensive team. I mean, look what they did to Cal Allen, and we know how great Cal Allen is. Holding them. I think Johnny, did you say it was under 100 yards rushing or something like that? I think you're the one that had that stat the last time that they when they played Cal Allen. I know it was very low, and Cal Allen is a rushing football team. So, Fredericksburg brought the defense. They didn't they didn't haven't been scoring a ton of points in the postseason, but they bring their defense. And LBJ, on the other hand, they're just going to score more points than the other team. That's what they do. So I think they're the exception to needing to have a great defense because they know how to score points, and they do. They put them up there.
Yeah, you're right. The defense isn't bad for LBJ, but it's the offense that's going to get them a title. It ain't the defense. They just. I mean, it's hard to take these guys, to hold these guys for 4 quarters. Your offense has to be good. You got to score points. The team is going to be LBJ. First of all, you got to hope that they're having not too good of a game, right? But your offense has to score points, obviously, but your defense has to be really good. And I don't think there's a defense that can shut them out. But yeah, you're right. Fredericksburg had their defense. That's what got them this far.
Hey, did you say that the quarterback's going to Texas Southern, Johnny, or committed? Is that what you
Uh,
said?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Isn't that where
Correct.
Andrew Body went last year? I want to say
Not
Andrew
sure.
Body went to Texas Southern.
Not sure.
I want to say that. I'm gonna have to look them up, but that would be interesting to have both of them playing on the same team because they played against each other last year. That'd be interesting. We'll see. But I'm pretty sure that's where he went. I'm gonna find that out while we talk about the next game.
The next game on the GI64 schedule, you have number 5 China Springs Cougars going up against number 14 West Orange Stark. So you have 4 and 5. China Springs takes the win 31 to 14. Now, what I did hear about this game was West Orange Stark lost their running back early on in the game. It kind of helped China Springs win this game, or I should say, hurt West Orange Stark. You know, they didn't have their running back or their quarterback. There was a player on the offense that got hurt. They didn't finish the game with them. I don't know how true that is. Something I just read off of somebody's post. So, you know, I never know if that's actually a fact or not, but I just thought I'd bring it up because there could be some truth to what I read. But China Springs, to me, guys, is a team that should win the state title. Listen, and we're going to preview this game between China Springs and Cuero later on. I can't wait to get into that debate. And I'm very interested to see who you guys here on the Jazz 64 are going to pick. I already know who I'm going to pick, but I don't pick anymore. I'm on the outside asking the questions now. But for that game, I will throw my 2 cents in. I'll let you guys know when we pick them. But to me, China Springs has been very impressive. You know, they talk about losing their back, West Orange Stark, and I know that definitely hurts you if that is the case. But to me, China Springs is tough. You just beat the number 1 team in the state of Texas, who had 40-plus consecutive wins. That's big. Now, you got to go out there and you play, but to hold a Carthage team the way they did for 4 quarters, you've got a good defense. Now, China Springs can score. I saw a little bit of their things that they're very quick. They threw gusting speed, obviously, but to me, it was the defense that was impressive. If you can hold Carthage and beat them to the amount of points that they held them, that China Springs defense is good. Now, you got to play the game right, but it's there. If you can beat the number 1 team, you should be able to hold these other offenses. But again, it's just what kind of day you're having. You know, we know that the talent's there, but you may not be able to be the best team on that day. So, Tony, I'll go to you first. I don't know if you're aware, if there's any truth, if you know anything about the injury to the West Orange Stark running back, or it was to an offensive player. I'm thinking it's a running back. I don't think it was a wide receiver, but it hurt them if this is true. But I thought China Springs was going to win this game anyway. Your thoughts on this game?
Mhm. Quick, just because I said I was going to look up Andrew Body while you were talking about that. So he is playing at Texas Southern, and he had a pretty damn good season. He threw for almost 59%. He had 2,000 yards, 11 passing TDs. He also rushed for 642 yards, averaging 6.6 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. So he had a pretty phenomenal freshman season in Texas Southern. So that, like I said, that would be interesting. So now back to the game. China Springs and West Orange Stark. No, I did not hear that, Gabriel. But I think you're right though about everything that you said. You know, they should be able to win state. But I mean, West Orange Stark. I mean, this is not a blowout by any means, but West Orange Stark is good. I mean, Carthage is good. I mean, China Springs is really, really being really super impressive right now. Super impressive from a team that we just heard about last year when we started this to the team they are now. It's just super impressive. Man, Cuero's gonna have their hands full. But I truly believe whoever wins in the state semis is gonna in that game will win state. I'm pretty confident in that. Uh, I, I I don't know what Cuero's chances are in beating a team that's steamrolling the way China Springs is right now. I really don't know, but I really do like Cuero's defense. We'll talk more about that when we preview the game. But China Springs is just, man, they're just I'm super impressed. I don't even know what else to say about them. Just that, I mean, Carthage 2 weeks ago, and then West Orange Stark the following week. Truly, truly a tough road to get to state. That's truly a tough road to get to state. That Region 3 is no walk in the park by any means. So, man, hats off to China Springs for the football they're playing right now.
Johnny, you know, if China Springs does not win the title, man, I mean, after beating Carthage, you have to finish it off, right? I mean, to just put a period at the end of the season. I mean, just with winning the state title, taking down a team that hadn't lost in 40 plus consecutive wins. I mean, it would just bringing home the trophy getting the rings would just be icing on the cake, right, for what they need. So China Springs still needs to finish it off, and it's no easy road. Even though they're playing really good, and they've just taken down two great teams in West Orange Stark and China Springs. They still got Cuero there in a way, and we've seen Cuero, and they've got speed, and they if you don't play your A game, this team can sneak up and beat you. So there's still a team that they've got to play, or two games, but they're definitely a team, a dangerous team that they're going to be playing up this upcoming week. Your thoughts on the game?
Well, I didn't know about this offensive player myself. It could have made a big factor in this game. This wasn't a blowout through the whole game. This was a 17-14 score going into the fourth quarter. You know, China Springs scores 14 points in that fourth quarter to put this game away. But that running game could have changed it all. That running back killed that 14 points quick in that fourth quarter. A running game could kill a clock. So, like Tony was saying, that's a tough region 3. Those 3, Carthage, China Springs, West Orange Stark. That's a tough region, man. So I do agree with Tony said, you know, if somebody out of that region, being China Springs now, don't win this thing, man, I just don't see. I don't see what I don't know. I think China Springs got this.
China Springs.
You can't you can't compare some of our teams to that region 3, man.
Hey, they got 3 teams in the top 10 in their district. You know what I'm saying?
And guys, and that's what I'm saying. You know, when you're China Springs, right? And I was talking to some guys, and they're like, nah, dude. You know, listen, China Springs has been going week after week. It's been like a state title game for them, right? Like 2 weeks ago, they played Carthage. That's like a state title. You know, you could say that's state title. The winner takes it all, right? And then they have to come back and they have to play another right the next week. You don't even have a week or two. You're right back planning and preparing for another tough team in West Orange Stark, and then you get the win. So Cuero's got their hands full. We'll preview this game, like I said, in a couple of days. But listen, man, you've got to play the game. To me, it's China Springs' game to lose. The title is theirs. But you know, guys, there's injuries that happen. There are things that happen in a game that could change the momentum. So you've got to play the game. But I would think if China Springs stays healthy, to me, they're the team that's going to win the title here. But we'll see. Next game on the Jazz 64 schedule, you had the Navarro Panthers going up against the Cuero Gobblers. This was a good game, a really good game all the way through to the very end. Cuero Gobbler gets the win, 35-28. Johnny picked Navarro. Tony went the other way and picked Cuero. I'm going to tell you something, guys. And this was something for Navarro. And I was saying this to some people over the weekend. I said, you know, Navarro and Wimberley, their coaching staff, they've been at these schools for some time now. They're here every year. They're either going in out of the region or they're right there in the region. They know these teams well. And even when they don't have the elite teams, they're good enough to compete at a high level. Navarro beat Cuero, gave Cuero their only loss of the season, right? And then they come back, and Cuero really struggled with Navarro, you know, and because Navarro had some things, and Johnny's talked about Navarro, what they bring to this game that gives Cuero fits without the speed. And I think that the coaching staff for Navarro, they do a really good job of utilizing their talent and putting it to good use and putting them in positions to succeed. These guys run that slot T, I believe, but they're big, and you heard Johnny say this, they're big and they're physical. And it was something that gave them an opportunity to beat Cuero. I don't know how Cuero scored at the very end, but this was a close game in the halftime. I think it was tied at halftime, and it was close all the way to the very end. So, Johnny, I'm going to go to you first. You picked Navarro. I picked Navarro as well. I thought Cuero would win, but I thought Navarro was going to give them yet another good game, and it was not disappointing. Tell us why you picked Navarro, and tell us what happened and how did Cuero win this game over Navarro.
Well, I had mentioned about Navarro how physical they are. There ain't no small little boys over there. And Quirrell's a real tight deep. They're a rough defense. Um, um, I wasn't surprised that Quirrell beat Navarro, not one bit. Especially how hot Quirrell's been here towards the second half of the season. But I just think Navarro had it in them going into this game. As they had a lot of momentum going their way too. And just watching these boys how they run the ball, man, just Coral pretty well found a way to stop them, but not completely stop them. I mean, they won by just one touchdown and stuff like that. I don't even know how they won it, actually, to tell you the truth.
I don't either. And Tony, I'll go to you because you picked Quirrell. Yeah, but here's the thing that's impressive to me, right? Quirrell, obviously, on the field, they're on paper, they're the better team. I mean, they've got the speed, they've got the running back, they've got, they can just throw the ball up there and they go up and they get it. They've got some big, tall receivers. We've seen them firsthand. So Quirrell is, to me, the better team when you compare them to Navarro. But Navarro had done something to them earlier in the season, right, to be able to beat them. Yet they come back and Quirrell still struggles with them again. So Navarro was doing some things because they weren't running away from the speed. They were running right at them. Like, we can't beat you with the speed, and we know that, right? It's not like, I'm just saying, Navarro's coaches didn't say this. I'm just saying it. If I'm Navarro's coach, I know I can't outdo you with the speed. I mean, I just can't outrun you, right? But what we can do is we got an opportunity to be more physical than you. So we're just going to run it up together. We're going to do what we do. We got our line. We got our big boys, and we're going to tire you out. And I think to some degree that worked. It wasn't enough, and it was enough for the first time that they met, but it was not enough. The defense couldn't hold to the very end to be able to beat them. But Navarro, give them a lot of credit. They came in against a really good Quirrell team and made it a game yet again because they do what they do. We're not going to run away from it. We're going to run it right down your throat. We're bigger and more physical than you are, and we're going to show you. And they did that for pretty much the whole game. But then you turn around and you look at Quirrell, and Quirrell's offense, it's very hard to stop in 4 quarters because they can beat you in multiple ways. They've got many ways. They just don't beat you one way. They can beat you on the run. They can beat you, on the pass. They can just throw it up, and they got the speed. That allows that Quirrell coach to be able to do many things. So your defense has to be really good to stop a good, almost say a great Quirrell team. A young team that's going to come back. So they'll be more dangerous next year than this year. But in this game, Navarro, I'm impressed with Navarro, really, to be able to be close and give themselves an opportunity. But then again, Quirrell wins. You took Quirrell. Tell us what you saw and why you picked Quirrell to win and beat Navarro the second time when they didn't do it the first time. What did you see? What did you like that you thought Quirrell could do the second go around that they didn't do the first go around?
Well, one of the things is I'm just gonna go with trend. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. It's not the reason I picked him, but I'm just gonna throw it out there anyways. Navarro's proven the last 3 years that they could beat you in preseason or regular season, but they can't beat you in the playoffs. And Wimberley's already proven that the last 2 or 3 years, where they beat Wimberley in the regular season and Wimberley knocks them out of the playoffs. That's why I'm saying, the trend. So they have that trend or that tendency to not be able to beat a team twice in the same season. That's one of the first things. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Not the reason I picked Cuero. The reason that I picked Cuero, even though Navarro is the team that beat Cuero, what I seen, firsthand, witnessed on the field, that defense is something else. They have weapons on offense, but that defense is something else, and they are young. And while you were talking about it, I was looking at the roster from China Springs, and they're also a young team. So both of these teams are going to be pretty stacked for next year, but that's what they do. When we talked about, Refugio reloading, not rebuilding, these teams don't have rebuilding years. They have reloading years. And it shows because they got a lot of young guys on those teams coming back and but Cuero, from what I seen from that defense, I mean, scoring points on defense, shutting down, you know, powerhouse offenses. You know, I just because of what I witnessed, you know, I haven't seen Navarro play this year. Yeah, they've had some impressive wins, but just from what I saw from Cuero and how bad those guys wanted on the field, you know, it made me believe in them. I don't know what I'm gonna do about this week. I don't know who I'm gonna pick. I'm still on the fence. I know China Springs playing good football, but you know, I have something to think about because I really like Cuero's defense right now. I really do. So I'm on the fence. We'll have to see what my mind tells me to do when we get to that point. But you know, Cuero's defense is I mean, that's what I'm going with right now. I'm going with Cuero's defense. I mean, they're playing really good. They're playing really good football. I mean, the whole team is, but that defense is just something else right now.
Well, let's go with the last 2 weeks, right? They were just real quick with the upcoming game. So Cuero beats Wimberley and Navarro, right?
Mm-hmm.
China Springs beats Carthage and West Orange Star. What's more impressive to you?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, just like what's
I
more
get what you're
impressive to you?
saying. I
You
get what
know,
you're saying. No,
and I know
I know.
Cuero's good, and you know, Cuero's closer to us, so we're definitely rooting for the Cuero Gobblers, right, to win this game. But you know, we're on the podcast. You know, I've told Johnny and you guys, you know, we're going to talk the truth. I hope Cuero does win. I think this team's going to be bad next year. They're going to be just a more dominant team next year than they are this year. But when I look back, and I've had this conversation all week, and even with guys today, since the game was played on Friday, right? And I said, listen, Cuero beat Wimberley and beat Navarro. They played Wimberley and Navarro and they beat them. China Springs just came off of Carthage and West Orange Stark. Very impressive wins. Not dominating wins, but two tough teams that they found a way to win. So it's going to be a good one. And that's what I was telling you, Tony, the strength of schedule. How much does that play into at this time? You know, because, you know, Cuero plays who they play. It's not their fault that they're playing Wimberley,
Yeah.
but I would say Wimberley and Navarro are not at the state. They're not at the level that Carthage and West Orange Stark. I mean, would you agree with that, Tony, or would you disagree with that?
Well, this is what I'll say. This is what I'll say. Besides Wimberley going to state uh and losing to Pleasant Grove 2 years ago, I think Region 4 is probably the weakest of the four regions. That's what I'll say. Because, like I said, Region 3 normally has three, four, or five of the top 10 teams in that region. And that's why they're so competitive. So, absolutely, strength of schedule definitely plays a part. I mean, they play tough teams all year long. Like I said, I mean, just in their district, you know, they had Silsbee, Jasper, and Belleville. You know what I mean? That's tough. That's a tough, you know, road to get here. When we talk about tough roads, I mean, it is impressive. It is impressive. But like I said, I haven't seen China Springs play, nor have I even seen Carthage play. I just know Carthage won state last year, but I haven't seen them play. They've had some impressive wins, and they almost shut out the runners up last year when they played Gilmer when they played them early in the preseason as well. But I haven't seen them play. And the reason I'm on the fence, as impressive as China Springs is, and as impressive as the last two games they had were, Cuero's defense is speaking to me right now. It's tough to pick against that defense right now. I'm just saying. When you ask me what's more impressive, I think China Springs 2 wins are more impressive. But just Cuero's defense is keeping me second guessing what I should pick, and that's all I'm saying. But yeah,
Well,
China Springs last 2 wins are more impressive.
all right. So now I'll go to you, Johnny.
Let,
So
let,
I'm
let,
going
me,
to
let,
ask.
me, let, me, let me throw something at Tony on that. So you're saying China Springs don't have a defense?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what I've
But
seen,
they gave
what
up
I have
28
seen.
points against Navarro.
Right.
Okay,
And
Navarro
against
didn't get there
Wimberley.
because they weren't good. Navarro didn't get there because they weren't good.
How many
Yeah,
how many points they give?
Wimberley went to
How
state
many
2
points
years
did they
ago.
give up to Navarro the first time?
Wimberley went to state 2 years ago. We're not
How,
talking about a team that's a
how many
pushover.
how many points did Navarro score on Cuero the first time?
Navarro and Cuero.
Yeah, the first time.
Oh man, let's see. Navarro scored. It was 29-27.
So about the same. Okay.
but here's a question, Johnny, that I wanted to ask Tony. Is Navarro at the same is their offense and defense in this, are they at the same level that Carthage? I mean, think about that. Is Wimberley and Navarro this year, not 2 years ago, not last year, this year? Is Wimberley, and remember, Wimberley was playing Cuero with the second string quarterback. It wasn't even their first string that was there, and he was still keeping up pretty close in the game. So I'm not taking anything away from Cuero. That's a heck of a team down there. But you play Wimberley and Navarro. Are they at the same, those two teams, are they at the same level to you that Carthage and West Orange Stark are? That's the question. Because that's what I look at. And I look at and say, you know what? Cuero can definitely beat China Springs because there's so many things that go into a game, injuries, anything can happen, right? And then you get an advantage. China Springs could have a bad game. Cuero's no joke. China Springs is going to have to come play to beat Cuero. They're not just going to lay over. This is a good team they're going to play with some speed. But I'm saying before game and before injuries, before anything happens, if you're a betting man, if I tell you what, Tony, you can win $50,000 if you get this pick right. You get this pick right, and I will go personally to your house on Saturday morning, and I will give you a check for $50,000. Do you take the Cuero Gobblers or do you take China Springs? Who do you take, Tony?
To be continued.
That's the question, Johnny. I'll ask you the same question. You know, you if you're a betting man, and they're saying, "Hey, listen, what I just told Tony." Who are you taking, China Springs or the Cuero Gobblers?
We'll find out.
All right. You guys are football guys. And I know you guys know. I know your heart may want to go one way, but I think you're pretty smart to know who has the advantage in this game. It doesn't mean that they will win it, but I think the three of us know who has the advantage based on what we've seen the last 2 weeks. But you got to play the game, guys. And I wouldn't count Cuero. I was talking to a guy earlier, and he said, so are you knocking Cuero out? Absolutely not. That team's got some speed. That team could beat you. You got to come play. But the other team they're fixing to play, I haven't seen them, but I've been reading articles. Very impressive wins in these last 2 weeks. We shall see when we preview on Thursday who you guys got. I can't wait. If you guys don't come on, I'm going to hunt you down because I want to know. I don't want to see a text. I want to hear who you guys are picking, and I want to know why. This is going to be really good on Thursday. Going to number 13 on the GI64 schedule. Hightower Hurricanes going up against number 8. Poth. I hope I said that right. The Panthers. The Panthers get the win 35-12. Tony, your thoughts on the game?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know anything about any of these teams. The only reason I picked Poth is because let me look at their schedule again because I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yes, that's what it was. They've already played this team and
They beat them?
they beat them big. Right? Is that the same team? Yeah, they beat them. They beat them already 55-7 in district. So I didn't think there was no way after losing 55 or winning 55-7. I didn't think there was no way Fort Bend was going to come and win this time. Like I didn't see it happening. Kind of like the Flower Bluff and the Vets game. I could see Veterans Memorial beating them because it wasn't a blowout. But when these two teams faced previously, it was pretty much a blowout. So I just did not see Fort Bend coming in and winning this game. Though they scored more points than they did the first time.
Johnny?
Yeah, I saw the same thing. Also went with the state ranking and who they played. Yeah, I didn't have no doubt on this. Their running back Jacob Brown pretty well had a field day himself. He had 346 yards rushing on 5 touchdowns.
They got 2,000-yard rushes over there. They got D Phillips. He's got 1,200 on the season. And then that Brown that he's talking about has 1,300, and Phillips has played in all 14 games, and Brown's only played in 11. So I don't know if he was hurt at some point, but there was some reason he missed 3 games, and he still got 100 more rushing yards than the other guy. So that's pretty impressive.
Jacob Brown.
And D
Guys, so
Phillips.
we're going to the next game, which was a game that was in our area. It's played out in Flower Bluff. You had CC Veterans Memorial Eagles going up against the Flower Bluff Hornets. First of all, I'll say congratulations to the Flower Bluff Hornets and to that coaching staff. Let me tell you something. Early on in the preseason, we talked about Flower Bluff, and we said they're going to be riding the thick of things, man. That this team is going to come down to Betts and Flower Bluff, and they struggled early on. We saw a lot of these teams, and some of us wrote them off, right? Because we're like, man, what's going on here? Had some losses that were very shocking to us, surprises, I should say. And then we kind of thought, this team may barely make the playoffs. Well, they might won't even make the playoffs because you had the Victoria schools that were kind of inconsistent, but they were good at times. Or you had Betts, and then you had GP that was coming on strong. So we didn't think that probably there was a chance that they wouldn't even make the playoffs or that they would be the 4th seed. But then they came back at the very end and they got a big win over the first place Veterans Memorial. I mean, it was a beatdown, right? That I didn't expect. None of us here expected. And so then they get themselves, we're thinking, okay, well, this is the product that we've been waiting to see. And they get in the playoffs. The playoffs, they've been very impressive. They continue to win. They had a big game against a tough GP team in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome. It was a back and forth, and they were able to get this win. So now they're going to meet up for the region championship against Veterans Memorial, and it was a 13-7. It was what we thought they were going to be. I think Johnny was at that game. So, Johnny, the biggest question I have for you was the vet player, was he was called out of bounds when he scored the touchdown. I've seen this from many angles. At first, when you see it, I'm thinking, okay, it didn't look out. But then there was some pictures that were taken, and who knows? And he might have just barely touched it. Johnny, my biggest question was the rep that called it was the rep that was by the end zone. How can you see clearly that is there? Now, how do you see that?
No. He wasn't the one that called it. It was actually the sideline judge. There is a video that's right behind the sideline judge as he's running down the sideline, and he's the one calling it. So it wasn't nobody in the end zone calling it.
Well, I saw a video.
It was a sideline judge, and he was like within 10 yards. There's a video, and you can see the sideline judge run by the video camera, and he's like within 10 yards in that perfect view.
Well,
and I too myself, it took a few times to do it to catch a good screenshot of myself and of every angle. And to me, I don't see no green anywhere in there between the shoe and the sideline. All I see is white on white. I see no strip of any dark color in those pictures. That's the way I see it.
I saw the guy. I didn't see.
But if you play it full motion, if you put full speed, regular speed, it looks like he's in.
Yes.
But yes. If you screenshot it perfect from different angles,
he barely touched it. He touched it by.
He touched it. And the thing is, like, if you don't see no green, if you don't see no darkness or green, he's out. All I see is white on white.
No, and I think they got it right. I mean, I saw that there was a video I saw where the guy, the ref from the end zone was calling, even when he was running into the end zone, before he put his hands up, he's running back down like toward the 20. He called it out. And I said, how the heck can you see it in motion from that angle? I mean, it's really hard. But the side judge, like you're saying, the side ref, I mean, he had the better angle. And I got to tell you, Johnny, after I saw those angles, he was out. I mean, barely. But that's just great. That's a great call by that ref to be able to see. I mean, because it's one thing to see it in slow motion, but to catch it in live action, I mean, you got to split second in that. I mean, you got to make that decision. He must have been looking, like I said, these refs look at certain things that let them know, like you said, with the green and the white and stuff. There's stuff like that that happens after looking at multiple angles that people took. I came to the conclusion that yes, not by much, but yes, just a little bit of that white touches, you're out. And it appeared that is what happened. So I think that the refs did get the call right. But I'll go to you in this game, 13-7, right? I mean, this is a heck of a game. First of all, were you there?
I didn't. I stopped from going. I was on my way, and I had personal stuff come up, and I didn't go after all. And I looked at the highlights of that game. I was so mad at myself.
Well, but I mean, this was a great win. We knew that this was going to come down. We knew Betts was going to come out and play great, and Florida Bluff's going to play great, and they did. I mean, this is a great defensive game, right? Because both of these offenses can score. So these defense, give credit to both coaches. I mean, like I said, the Florida Bluff coach for turning it around. He knew that he had that talent. And he never gave up, even when they were struggling. Just kept going, kept grinding. We're eventually going to catch on. I know I have the talent, and they did. And we've had Coach Ben Bittner on there. Vets is always good. And, I mean, coaches come out here, and they played, I think, with their second-string quarterback through pretty much all the playoffs. Their first-string quarterback had been hurt. So you got to give Coach Bittner and his assistants. I mean, man, this could have gone either way. Both programs here from Corpus Christi, it was a great game. But your thoughts on this game, give us some stats if you have any.
Yeah, I got a couple stats. For Florida Bluff, actually the leading, it was, like you said, it was nothing but defense. The leading, I guess, highlight guy or leader of rush of yards was old Connor Tyler for Florida Bluff, which had 112 yards rushing. That was your highest of all both teams. Wow. 112 yards rushing. But hey, you got to give it up. I wanted to mention his name last week, but I kind of like skipped over it. Kyler Minsky. Kyler Minsky. This is the guy that hit the game-winning field goal last week. And he had two big field goals this game to give a 6-0 lead into the game, which was crucial because they won it by 6 points. He hit a 43-yarder and a 37-yarder this game. No chip shot for a high school kid, college pros can't even make those distance. Pros, of course, have a smaller goalposts, but still, that's a lot of pressure on a kid. Winning one game, advancing to the next round, and then going into a bigger game and getting your team a 3-0 lead, a 6-0 lead. Hey, this kid is very popular kid in high school right now. I can tell you that.
Hey,
he's
I'll
the
tell
best
you
guy
this,
on the
man.
football team right now.
Hey, he's getting free meals wherever he wants to go in front of them. He can go anywhere to any restaurant. And they're giving it to him. And listen, you're right. Impressive, right? I don't know if he's a senior, and I don't know what his classification is, but he's being big. He's been huge for the Hornets this year. He's going to continue to. It's great to have a kicker like that. That's pretty much automatic. I mean, there's pressure on this kid. In that Portland game, he misses it, and they're going into overtime, I think. And I mean, he makes it. I mean, it's like you said, it's just the pressure. Then he comes here, his offense is struggling. They can't really do much on offense, but they know now, hey, we can get this and then, within a 35 to 30, 25, we got a guy down here that can get us some points. So, that's nice to have. We don't actually have to get it in. We can get
Yeah.
points. I think it's great. And this kid, the last 2 weeks, obviously, has been very impressive. Has been a big part of why Flower Bluff will be playing this week. Tony, I'll go to you. Your
Hold on,
thoughts
I
on
wasn't
this?
done. Hold on, I wasn't done yet.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry,
I
John.
wasn't done yet. I was, the the Hornets have a very impressive defense against the Vets. The Vets had 30 carries on the ground for only 60 yards. 60 yards on 30 carries. Of course, your sacks are counted negative against you. I know they had a couple big runs here and there, but hey, if you don't control if you don't control that D line, man, your quarterback's gonna get sacked pretty easily. That's another thing that the Vets had problems with. The bluff was pretty much in his face too. But hey, hats off to Flower Bluff. I mean, this is their first ever regional championship, win. They joined the elite of the Corpus Christi region. I call it the Corpus Christi Gulf Coast region. To go into what they call the Final Four in football. They joined the Miller, Callan, Sitten, and GP and Refugio as the only teams going into the 5th round in this Corpus Christi area. So, hats off to the Bluff.
Yeah, Johnny. I mean, listen, this is great. There were two teams, two great programs, and they've been good for a while. These two teams have been battling it out the last 2 years here. It's been Flower Bluff and Vets. And I mean, I don't know how young Flower Bluff, how many returners they got. We know they've got a great coach out there. The coaching staff, they've been good for a while now. Up there, they've been in the playoffs pretty much every year, and they make some noise. And of course, we know what Vets got on the other side. So I think for Vets, I know they'll be back next year. They got a young team. Not really sure on Flower Bluff and what they have coming back. And then, of course, GP, we already know these guys will be back. So I don't know how the realignment will be. I'm assuming that hopefully they'll keep these three teams together in the district, GP, Vets, and Flower Bluff, because I like to see them go at it again a couple of times. It was great to see that. But Tony, I'll jump over to you now. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the game, obviously. Johnny, who did you go? You went Flower Bluff, right, Johnny?
I went Flower Bluff.
And Tony, who'd you go?
Went with Vets.
Vets. And so I want you to talk, why did you go with Vets? But also talk about, did you see the play where they called him out?
Yeah, I just watched it a little while ago. To me, he looked in on the play. I don't know who was recording it, but it's right on the sideline. But on one of Chris Tomlinson's posts from Channel 3, there was a still, and it did look like his foot was on the line. But like Johnny said, I don't know. Johnny said the sideline judge called it. It looked like as soon as he would have had stepped out, is when Flower Bluff comes across the screen, and he's in that referee's face. So I don't know how he clearly saw that. Like I said, we had a Vets player trying to block the Flower Bluff player from making the tackle, and they come right across him, right across that ref, right as the point where he might have or questionably stepped out. Uh, but looking at it in fast motion, like I said, I don't know who took the video, but it looked like he was in. But there's a still image, but it could be. I mean, you could take a still image from a different angle, and you could be an inch off, and he might be inbounds. I mean, I don't know. That's a close call. Referee thought he was out of bounds, and they don't do challenges in the playoffs. They do. I think they do in state, but they don't in the playoffs. So we'll just never know. I mean, it will leave a bitter taste in the Veterans Memorial, I don't know, their Hall of Fame of losses, if they have any of those, because they have a pretty good program over there. But it's something that they're gonna have to put behind them. I mean, they're a good football team. They played against adversity with the backup quarterback. They came this far. I was talking to somebody at work, and he asked me who do I thought was gonna win. And I said, I think Flower Bluff's gonna win. I think Flower Bluff's gonna win. And I had already picked Veterans Memorial, just because I really believe that it's hard uh, to beat the same team twice. And they proved that they could do it. And I figured if they were going to win, they have weapons on offense. They got a humongous offensive line, humongous. And then the quarterback's 6'6". You know what I mean? He's a big old boy. He can see down the field. He can make a play himself. I mean, he's a big boy. So that's why I went with the Veterans Memorial, just because I thought it would be tough for Flower Bluff to beat them twice, and but I did second guess myself, and I told somebody else I thought Flower Bluff was going to win, and they ended up pulling it off. And that kicker you were talking about, Johnny, he is a junior. He will be back next year, so he's only going to get better. So we'll see. One of the things that we didn't mention is Flower Bluff was a third seed team. They were third seed in that district. So I don't know in all these other districts that we cover, how many third seed teams are here right now. You know what I mean? Especially 5A Division One. That's tough. 5A Division One is tough. And we got a third seed team from Corpus Christi going to the semis. I mean, that's super impressive for the area. For the area, and I hope that Veterans Memorial and could put that behind them and root for Flower Bluff, because it's all about supporting our area, and for a third seed team to come back. I mean, they had a great record. They only lost 2 games, but they were third seed in district because of the losses. Uh, to be playing the state semis, and I would hope that they would do good. I forget who they have next week. I think it was something like Den Ryan or something. I think that's who I
Who's
saw
that?
them
Flower
play.
Bluff?
Yeah.
No, I think they got Katie.
Oh yeah. They got the Pateau, right?
Yeah, Pato.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it Patel? Okay.
Woo! Gonna have their hands full next week, but like I said, I just hope that the people from Veterans Memorial, it sucks when we lost like that to Navasota last year here in Rockport. With more than one bad call, or like 5 bad calls that changed the course of that game. And one of them was a touchdown. So, it's you just got to put it behind you. That's over with, and just root for the area team, and hope that they do well. But hats off to Flower Bluff for man, impressive win. I mean, it was a tough defensive game, and I said that about Memorial last week, that even though they have a backup quarterback, their defense would keep them in this game, and the defense did. Forcing field goals, and fortunately for Flower Bluff, that's all they needed was those 2 field goals to win the game. So
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about something after I'm done with these games. We got a few more left. At number 15 on the GIC sports schedule, you got Crosby Cougars going up against Texas Tigers. Crosby gets the win, the touchdown win, 14-7. Johnny, I'll go to you first. Your thoughts on this game?
Um, yeah, I had to take the Texans. Um,
Oh, yeah.
right? I think I did right.
Yes, sir.
Why did I pick them? 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 Shoot, I don't remember why I picked them. I think I just went with the thing on paper with the undefeated and the higher rank on that one. I'm pretty sure that's the way I did that one. It wasn't too convinced about Crosby this year. That was a very close game. That's all I got to say is, but Bryson McKendry for Crosby, he went 5 for 16 for 124 yards, and he also ran for 3 touchdowns. So he's a pretty mobile quarterback, old Bryson.
Yeah, it was a good game. I think 14-7. Tony, your thoughts?
Hmm. Yeah, this is what a playoff game score should look like. You know what I mean? Just like the last game with the Vets and Veterans Memorial. This is like what you would come to expect. This means that both teams play smash mouth defense. It doesn't mean that the offenses couldn't get going. It just means that there were some really good defenses on the field. Uh, I went with Crosby though. Let me see. I'm trying to pull up their schedule right now. I'm trying to figure out what my train of thought was. Okay. Yeah, they lost to Carthage, Manville. I mean they lost to some really, really good teams. Um, let's see. I know what it was. It was this Port Neches, I bet you. I didn't write it down, why I picked them, but I think this was it right here. Yeah, so the Port Neches game, uh, they both Texas played Port Neches last week and beat them 44-21, and Crosby played them in the regular season and beat them 69-28. So when I saw that, I said, man, I mean, that it's two teams that, this is one team that they both have played, and Crosby had a more impressive win, 69-28. So that's why I went with Crosby. Um, and then Netherlands, they beat Netherlands, and Netherlands gave West Orange Stark their only loss of the season besides before last week. So I thought, man, if they could beat West Orange Stark, then they're a pretty damn good team. And so that's why I picked them, because Crosby. I mean, they play some tough opponents, and they had a common opponent that they both played, and they had a more impressive win over them. So that's why I went with Crosby.
Yes, great game. And here's another good one on the GI64 schedule. Number 16, Alamo Heights. Number 8, Alamo Heights going up against Liberty Hill. Man, Liberty Hill gets a 3-point win over Heights. This was another good one. A little bit higher of scoring, but it might equal. Maybe came down to a field goal, Johnny. I don't know. What do you know about this game?
Um, as you know, it was a high scoring game. That's all I know. Again, a great game though. This wasn't a defensive game. It was a more offensive game, obviously. Liberty Hill had 416 yards rushing this game.
Rushing?
416 yards rushing. Yeah, surprisingly coming out of Liberty Hill.
Well, they run the slot T2, right? And from what we know, we haven't seen them in a couple of years, but we know that Navarro and Liberty Hill, we said this. I've said this, and I've heard other people say it. You probably run that slot T almost to perfection. These two, we know Liberty Hill does. And here they are, Tony. Again, they're right back in the thick of things. This team is always good. They're even when they're not an elite team, they're making some noise in the playoffs. We'll see what happens next week. But your thoughts on this game? Did you pick Liberty Hill, Tony?
Yes, I did.
Johnny, did you pick Liberty Hill also?
No, I pick Alamo Heights.
Alamo Heights, yeah. I could have gone either way. Alamo Heights have been very impressive going into this game. It's a lot of wins. So, and it was exactly what we thought it was going to be, right? People thought, hey, this is a great game, two great programs, one team has to win. Liberty Hill might have had the ball at the very end and got their 3-point lead, or who knows how it happened. Your thoughts on this game, Tony? What do you have for us?
Yeah. When I picked this game, it was tough, because when I was looking at the schedules, Alamo Heights beat Wimberley 7-0. They blanked Wimberley 7-0. They didn't score a lot of points, but they blanked a really powerful Wimberley offense. But what I did see that made me pick Liberty Hill is Alamo Heights uh wins a close one last week to Marble Falls 10-7. And Marble Falls is in Liberty Hill's district. Yeah, and they beat them 21-14. So they're able to score more points against a good Marble Falls team. Marble Falls was good. And so because of that, that's why I went with Liberty Hill. And then I think that their win last week over Rouse was super impressive, scoring 56 points. We talked about that, being able to score that many points in the postseason. It's tough to do, and Liberty Hill was able to do that. I think I'm the only one that picked Liberty Hill last week, or you and I picked Liberty Hill, and and Johnny and Steve picked against them. Is that right, or am I right there? I think that's the way it went down. I think everyone else went for Rouse. But anyways, either way, that's why I picked Liberty Hill. Uh, they got Crosby next week. It'll be a good game. That game to me, I believe, could go either way. We'll talk more about that when we preview. But I just, Liberty Hill did enough to win. They did enough to win. You said you don't know if so. It looks like the difference in the game. Uh,
Field goal, maybe.
it looks like maybe no, it looks like a touchdown and a missed attempt. It looks like they scored two touchdowns in the second quarter and they missed an attempt because they scored 13 points. Unless they kicked a lot of field goals because it was 6-7 in the first quarter and then it was 13-14 in the second quarter. And the only way I could think they scored uh 13 in the second quarter is if they're missing field goals.
Right.
And then they end up making the field goals the rest of the game. Uh oh, wait up. No, they did. Oh yeah. No, yeah, that looks like a field goal in the third quarter because they scored 15 in the third quarter.
There you go.
So they probably I don't know, probably went for two. I don't know what they did because it was 13
Well,
to 13 to 9, 14 to 9. It was 14 to 19 at half. Alamo Heights was up, and then Liberty Hill scores 15 unanswered points in the third quarter. They each scored 14 points in the fourth. Man, that looks like it was a freaking damn good game to be at, though. I tell you what, that looks like it was a good game to be at.
yeah. I mean, good. I mean, yeah, two good teams. And Alamo High's been playing really good. Liberty Hills, playing good. One team had to lose, unfortunately. Liberty Hill gets Alamo Heights has to lose, right? But it looks like both teams were at it. They were going at it the whole game, and it seemed like it was pretty close. And then just Liberty Hill pulls away to get the 3-point win. Game 17 on the GI 64 schedule, guys. Tony, maybe you can look at this and you can maybe I can't say this name of this team. The number 10. It's the 17th game on our
Yeah.
schedule. Do you know how to say that? Johnny, one of you guys know how to say it?
Atascocina?
I guess so.
Atascocita.
Atascocita.
The Eagles going up against number 7 North Shore Mustangs. The Mustangs get the big win, 44-20. North Shore will advance. Tony, I'll start with you. Thoughts on that game?
Well, one of the things that I will say is if I remember correctly, this is the school that Veterans Memorial head football coach went to go coach at. It was Houston. It was a Houston North Shore, I believe. I believe that's the school he went to. So, anyways, I will find that out while we're talking about the next game. But yeah, I went with North Shore on this game, hands down, just because these teams are district foes. North Shore already beat them. They only beat them by 10. But I just thought North Shore had the hotter hand ending the season, going up into that point, and Atascocita, uh, I mean, another good football team. Like I said, they had three losses coming in. One of them was to North Shore. Uh, well, now two of them to North Shore. So they're 11-3. Twice to North Shore, and the other team they lost to was Denton Geyer. So it's not like that helped out because Denton Ryan, all those Denton schools are always really good. So I just went with North Shore because they've already beat them. That's what I was going with. And again, Atascocita hasn't been scoring as many points as North Shore's been scoring in the playoffs, so that's why I went with North Shore.
Johnny?
Yeah, I went with the same thing, district foes. Even with their loss against North Shore earlier in the season, I mean, you're looking at two top two top teams, two of the top 10 schools in the state at the 6A level. You know, so that's saying a lot between these two teams already going into this game. But man, North Shore must have some good backs, or but at the Cosita.
Yeah.
Out of Cosita.
His quarterback must have a good bad game. His name's Zion Brown. Yeah, he threw 4 interceptions this game. That's a killer right there. That's a huge killer. But on the other side of North Shore, the running back Javier Owens had 14 carries for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I mentioned one of these earlier in the podcast. North Shore is also playing with a freshman quarterback named Caleb Bailey. He was 8 for 14 passing, 116 yards. On the ground, he has 74 yards on 17 carries and a touchdown himself. So they're carrying. North Shore's also carrying with the freshman quarterback.
Man. We'll see what North Shore can do, guys. See if they can take it all the way. Number 18 on the GI 64 schedule, he had number 11, Brennan Bears going up against Lake Travis Cavaliers. Lake Travis gets the big win. Johnny, I'll go to you. What did you have, Lake Travis or Brennan?
I had picked Brennan, man. I had picked Brennan. I've always known those boys be some big old boys over there. Lake Travis is somebody too. They're no fluke team. Lake Travis has a quarterback by the name of Bo Edmonton. Bo Edmonton. I can't read my own handwriting. He attempted 32 passes and completed 25 of them for 324 yards and 2 touchdowns. They do it on the ground too. Derek Johnson, 213 yards rushing on 23 carries and 2 touchdowns himself. I guess they have a big receiver. He's a 4-star receiver. An Ohio State commitment, Caleb Burton. He had 5 catches for 90 yards himself.
Yeah, they're well-rounded. They can run and pass. Hey, Johnny or Tony, does Lake Travis? What are they? Are they a 6A or 5A?
6A.
6A.
So are they gonna? Can they meet up with Austin Westlake?
No,
Westlake's 5A, right?
no, they're different divisions.
1 and 2.
Yep.
Oh man, that would have been good if they could have met up, because we're
Lake
talking about
Lake Travis is 1, and surprisingly, Austin Westlake's 2.
Wow, I would have loved to have seen those two battle it out, man, in the state championship. That'd be awesome to watch. Tony, your thoughts on this game? Lake Travis, man, they're rolling. I mean, they're probably, you just heard Johnny, this team can run, they can pass. I mean, they're the real deal, man. It looks like they give themselves a good opportunity to win the state title. Your thoughts on this game? Any surprises?
I went with Lake Travis. I went with Lake Travis. Yeah. That's the home of Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? That's where he played high school football. So I had to go with Lake Travis. And Lake Travis is one of those teams. I remember when there was just 5A, and Lake Travis and Austin Westlake were always going at it, and Midland Lee and all them playing against each other. I mean, right there in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was them 3 teams were always battling each other. Den was up there every once in a while. But yeah, Lake Travis has a winning tradition down there, or up there, and up in the Austin area. Austin area, right? I think so.
Yep.
So that's why I went with them. I thought that they were the better team. Uh, and again, home of Baker Mayfield. But also some of their wins, or let's see. Yeah, one of their only losses that they had was to Austin Westlake. They've already played Lake Travis already played Austin Westlake and lost 63-21. Uh, so let's see. It said that was a district game. You were asking about Austin Westlake, right?
Yes.
So the way 6A does They
Yeah, tell me
split.
because I'm confused now.
Okay, the way they do it the old way we used to do it. You remember how they used to take the bigger school
The
to
big
D1?
school, yeah, yeah.
That's the way 6A does it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So they're
why
the only one. They're the only one that does that.
6A is the only one that does that.
Oh, okay. So did you get what he's saying, Gabe?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I say because it says they're in the same district.
Okay,
So
so
when
I
you,
would have not known. I would have not known until I read that in all the posts today.
but
I was
that
I
is what
was
they
reading
used to
up on
do.
stuff like that, like how's Austin Westlake D2, you know? And I was reading up on it, and like it was like repeated over and over and over. Like these
Yeah.
people don't hear, those people don't understand. You know, your biggest school's gonna go D1, and everybody else goes D2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So
makes sense. That's the way it was back in the day.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah, 6A is
anyways,
the only
hey,
one that's doing it.
well they got Lake Travis got North Shore next, so that ought to be a good game. We'll talk more
Okay,
about
it's
that
going to
when we
be,
preview them.
yeah, that's going to be a really good one. Number 19 on the Jazz Sports schedule, you got Summer Creek Bulldogs going up against the number 2 team in the state, Katy Tigers. Katy takes a 3-point win, 34-31. Guys, we know about Katy. Man, this was a good one. This had to have been a good game to go watch. Tony, I'll start with you, man. Katy gets a 3-point win. Who did you have? I think both of y'all picked Katy. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, I'll go to you first. Your thoughts on the game?
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was researching this game, uh, I was freaking out about how many schools were in Katy. I was like, damn, Katy got that many schools now? And not only that, but they're all good. You know, that Peyto is from Katy. We previewed Katy versus Tompkins early in the season, in the regular season, and now you know the Tiger. I mean, there's a lot of damn good schools in Katy. I don't know where all these kids or what's in Katy that all these people are moving over there, but they play some damn good football up there. But yeah, I mean the Tigers, man. They're you know when we previewed them against was it Tompkins? Isn't that who they played when we talked about them the last time? I'm on the wrong one. Anyways, I have Summer Creek pulled up right now. Yeah, they take an impressive win over Cinco Ranch last week. Oh, that another Katy team, Katy Cinco Ranch. Uh, yeah, 14-0. Uh, yeah, Tompkins. They beat Tompkins 56-21. They beat Cinco Ranch 49-3. This is the team that Summer Creek just beat last week. You know what I mean? They only let them score 3 points on them. So when you look at those common games where they played, where both teams played, and you see that lopsided score, you know, it kind of gives you a pretty good feel of what those two teams what that game will look like when they meet up with each other. And that's kind of my train of thought whenever I went and picked this game. You know, you see that Cinco Ranch score, and then you see the score between Summer Creek and Cinco Ranch last week. You know, and I didn't think that Summer Creek was going to come out here allowing Cinco Ranch to score 41 points when Katy only allowed them to score 3. And that's why I went with Katy. That's not the only reason because Katy's been whipping everybody they play. So
Yeah. Those guys got a couple of rings down over there. Johnny?
Yeah, I went with Katy on this one. I went easily with Katy. I went with Katy, who they are, their record. I really didn't even look up Summer Creek. I saw they had 3 losses going into this game. I was like, what are they doing in this round? You know, pretty much. So I didn't really look deep into this, but man, they put a game up against Katy. You know, very impressive, 34-31 only. Katie's running back, Zeth Davis, he had a big game with only 15 carries, 234 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Very impressive running back there.
Yeah. We'll see if Katy can get the. Who does Katy play? Just offhand, I know we're going to preview it on Thursday, but who does Katy play next?
It would
This next one?
be.
while he looks it up, I just want to throw this out there. Katy is ranked number 7 nationally number 7 nationally. That's how good Katy is. And South Lake Carroll's number 6, and Austin Westlake's number 2 in the nation. So that's pretty damn impressive. Dog it.
Yeah.
Telling you, man, it's I mean, that's gonna be good. Do you guys know who Katie plays next week or this upcoming week here?
I'm gonna look it up right now. Katy got that's Austin Westlake. Ha ha! Woo! Number 7 versus number 2 in the nation. That's gonna be a game. They
Yeah,
got to play in
and
Dallas Stadium. They got to play in Dallas Stadium Friday to fill that there. That's gonna be a lot of people going to that game.
well, and here we go. The number 20 game it's the last one on our GS64 schedule in the 4th round, and it's the number 1 state team in Texas, the Austin Westlake Chaparrals, going up against Bandit Grip Vipers. Boy, with Westlake, we know they're ranked. They put it to them in the 4th round, 70-7. So now we're talking about Austin Westlake going up against Katy. I mean, is it Katy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
Johnny, I'm going to go to you first. Listen, we'll preview this on Thursday, right? But we don't really want to talk so much about the game that was just played 70-7, right? Because what's more interesting is what's coming up down the road, right? Because you got, man, you heard Tony. You got to talk a little bit about this game with Austin Westlake, but then also kind of give us just a little bit of your thoughts going into next week's game. 2 great programs instead of Texas. One's got to win and one's got to lose.
Touch a little bit on this game. I know I heard his name before. Kate Klubeck. Am I saying that right?
From Westlake.
Yes. He's one of the top recruiters in the nation.
Yeah. Quebeca.
Like 5-star recruiter. He's already committed to Clemson though. He's a Clemson. It's sad that all these Texas players are going somewhere else. That's what I don't get. But they have a sophomore. Austin Westlake has a sophomore running back named Jack Kaser. He scored 6 of their touchdowns this game. A sophomore. That a school that has thousands in there, you having a sophomore school, you're making your big touchdowns in this game.
What was his name?
Jack Kaser. Kaser.
I see Jack Hempling. Yeah, Hempling. Jack Hempling.
Okay, I got Kaser.
Yeah. Sophomore running back, 6'1", 180 pounds. Number 12.
I don't know. I got a Jack, but that last name's way off. Unless there was a misprint in my end.
Mm-hmm.
But now, going into this game, I'm gonna have to go with Austin Westlake. I know too much about Austin Westlake. I don't know how they played this year, this and that, but I remember as a kid watching them, play against your GPs back in the day. I actually got to see one of their games back in the day up there in Austin. One of these evacuation for hurricanes back in the day. My cousins live up there in Georgetown, and his high school, they were playing against Austin Westlake. And man, just a very great atmosphere. And just knowing as the Chaparrals, they're the team that always eliminated GP, always eliminated Cal every year. They were the dominant team, and here they are again. One of the biggest classifications in the state, being national ranked now. I cannot go against them.
Tony, I would think it'd be hard. It's home of the retired Drew Brees, man. I mean, come on, right? Drew Brees went to high school in Austin Westlake, right? So, I mean, you talked about all these guys that come out of Austin, Baker Mayfield. I know the guy, Gilbert, also.
Yeah.
He came out of, I think, Lake Travis. Drew Brees comes out. So, Austin has produced some great players that are now or have gone on to have great careers. And some are still having great careers and starting off there. in the NFL. So, I mean, when you talked earlier and you said that Austin Westlake is ranked number 2 in the nation, and Katie's ranked what?
7.
So, I mean, as good as we know Katie is, right? Now I'm going to ask you to do the same, to talk a little bit about this game, but just talk a little bit about previewing next week, because that's exciting to me, right? We all love this game. It's a 70-7 game. What can you really say much about it, right?
Yeah.
The juice is coming up with the 2 teams that are coming up next. So this is going to be a great one. I want to know, and you don't have to let me know now because I'll find out Thursday, or unless you already want to know. I want to know where you guys are going to go. Johnny already said, man, he's going Austin Westlake. He said, man, these are 2 great programs. But I got to go with Austin Westlake, number 2 in the nation. I mean, we know Katie is dominant and they're great. But I just think Austin Westlake, to me, is just going to be better this year. It's going to be a good one. I wish I could go and watch this game and sit there, because you're going to watch good athletes on both sides. What do you guys say about the game? And do you already know who you're taking in this matchup in a few days?
Yeah. I will say that this is not going to be a 70-7 win. But I think hands down Austin Westlake is going to win this game. Uh, I would think that this game is a big enough game. 2 nationally ranked teams in the state of Texas, uh, facing each other in the state semis. I would imagine that this is a big enough game to air on ESPN 2 or something. I know sometimes they show those games around the nation on Friday. So I would hope that uh this would be able to be aired. I don't know, but that will be a good game to watch. But I think Austin Westlake is too much this year for Katie, though Katie is very damn good. Katie's very damn good, but because they barely beat Summer Creek by a field goal. I just don't know if coming off of a win like that gives them enough momentum, enough confidence for this week coming up, having to face Austin Westlake. I just don't think that Katie got enough out of this last win to get them there. But they we're talking about 2 teams who always have D1 commit offensive linemen, D1 commit. There's D1 commit players on both sides of the ball on both teams for sure. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a battle, but I just think Austin Westlake's gonna be too much. It's gonna be too much for them. It's very exciting. I'm pretty excited about this game. More excited than I am about the and I should be than the China Springs and Cuero, because that's another highly anticipated game for me. I don't know about the state of Texas, but for me, that's a highly anticipated game for me. I can't wait to see what that is. But this game right here, man, it's like I said, I wish I could see it. I wish that I could see this game, but
Hopefully
we'll
it'll be
see.
televised. It's really Houston against Austin, right? I mean,
Yeah.
basically Katie from the Houston
hmm
area, Austin Westlake from the Austin area. And this is going to be great. And of course, it'll be played too far up from where we're living. But
I wonder
yeah,
where it's
I'm
gonna be
sure that
played
they're
at.
going to have it live
Does it say,
somewhere.
Johnny?
Huh?
Does it say where they're playing?
Oh no, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, they'll have it. Let me check it. I seen it earlier.
Say, because I'm gonna be in College Station this weekend if it's around.
Let's see. I can probably
They're
find it.
six. They're what are they? 6A or?
Yeah, 6A.
It's going to be at McLean Stadium in Waco, Texas.
Waco. Man, that's too far for me. Man, Waco. That's far for Katie to travel.
Not sure why it's there, but that's what it has. It has number 1 Westlake Chaparral going against Katy Tigers, and it is a 2 p.m. game. And the venue is at McLean Stadium, Waco, Texas.
All righty, it is what it is.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure they'll televise. It's just gonna be good, man. There are gonna be some great matchups, guys. And thank you very much. I do think that there should be some instant replay in high school. I do believe that, if not regular season games, at least when the playoffs start. I think it, for me personally, I've talked to a lot of people and they said, nah, but you got to get it right, man. You know, there's a lot of play calls that I think instant replay could change. I would like to see in high school the same way you see in NFL challenges and stuff like that, because you know, we don't always get it right. You know, these referees do the best they can, but they don't get it right. And it would be nice for these guys to be able to go back, just like you do in baseball, and you can able to get it now. It makes a big difference, guys. A bad call can change a game. So if you don't want to right now have the instant replay for regular season games, I can understand that, because that costs and hold up a lot of games during regular season. But I think once you get in the playoffs and on, first round and on, I think there does come up, some games come up where calls are not, you know, they're missed. And if you have an opportunity to challenge, or you're able to go down there, put something in place where you can go and look to make sure you get it right, I think it's worth it, because I've seen some games that I thought a play here, play there changed it. They could have won it for a team. So I think, yes, you do got to get it right. I think one bad call can change the game, obviously toward the end, and I think it would help.
The negative about that is you got to remember the only time instant replay comes in effect is old Jerry's world, where you have cameras at all different angles in a huge stadium. And in a high school game, even here in the fourth round, you're relying on different cameras that people use personally. You know, you don't have no what do you call it, official cameras in a stadium as you do in Jerry's world, in a real football stadium. You know, in a stadium like that, you have those drop cameras that come down. You know, you have different angles. You have the end zone angles, down the goal lines. You know, something you don't see in any high school game. You know, so that's a negative about any high school game, especially at any place you play at. You know, even your big stadium, your Buck stadiums don't have access to cameras where they should be placed for any any instant replays. You know, that's the negative about it. And I understand why that's the only time it's being played. The only time it can be used as an instant replay is something like where they can use all cameras in different angles. You know, because it would be sad that a team gets eliminated like Flower Bluff in their own stadium, which obviously don't have access to good cameras in different angles. You know, we're looking at people's cell phone cameras or actual real cameras, but those are not relayed to officials that can review it. You know, your Channel 3's recordings is not something that's going to go to review to a review referee. You know, that's the negative about that. You know, basically you won't have there's like games you can have it at, but games you can't have it at. So it'd be what you call it, an advantage and a disadvantage as you go on. You know, there could be a game down there that a team wins by the instant replay, and be a team that didn't win, that didn't get that instant replay, and here they are playing head on the next following round. You know, so I can understand why it's only in the state championship game, because they have access to every camera at all angles.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, it you know, the funding and what it would take to put it in there may not be something that's worth for, you know, the playoffs. But I have seen calls, and I'll be honest with you, they probably get more wrong than right. I mean, you know, there's you see a lot of calls. It's sometimes Johnny and Tony where it don't even look like the refs know. I mean, you saw a game a couple years ago at Miller, Johnny, where you said, man, it looked like the refs didn't even know what they were calling. That, you know, Coach Seibert and Coach Evans had to be telling them what was going on. And I think, to me, and it's just a regular season game, right? It's a preseason game. It's not anything that would have made or broke any teams. It didn't. You know, Miller lost that game. It didn't hurt them at all. They still advanced real far in the playoffs, right? You know, their ranking might have gone down a little bit or up or down because of they lost. But outside of that, it really didn't hurt them at all. But I think even when you see it in those games, there's a lot of times where referees get it wrong. and they do the best they can, but it'd be nice if they could go back and review, like even in baseball, an out. I mean, you're talking about inches of the game that can either make it or break a team. And if you get eliminated in the playoffs um, because of a bad call, that really affects the team. I would like to be able to see them get it right. But on the flip side, like you said, it's what it would cost in every stadium to have that is probably something that's never going to happen, right? Because look at all the stadiums that you have. And I mean, just imagine you'd have to try to get it into all of the games. So it would be something that's probably not doable, but if it could, it'd be nice, I think, to be able to do that to get calls, because I think it would help a lot of calls. You get a bad call here, you get a chance to take a look at it, and you could review it and get it right. But the flip side of that, like you said, is the amount of money that it would take to have to get all this stuff in place in the stadiums where they play to be able to get that correct call is probably something that it's more of a hassle. It's something that's not doable, and so probably never will happen. But man, I think it helps out in the NFL, and if you could in college, if you could have it at the high school level with the playoffs, I think it'd make a big difference. So yeah, it is what it is, and you got to kind of live with those calls, even when they're wrong. I mean, we don't like it, but it's part of the game. It don't only happen in football; it happens in baseball, it happens in basketball, it happens, but maybe in our lifetime, guys, we won't see it, but who knows after we're gone, man, they might be able to do instant replay in high school, but it'd be great. So thank you guys for coming on the Gridiron 64. We broke down week number 4, the 4th round of the playoffs. I'm sorry. And it was great. There were 20 games that we put on. Johnny, you did such a great job. Do you want to do the next round as well, or do you want to pass that over to somebody else?
I don't know. Unless somebody wants to take it, I don't care.
Tony, you're the only guy up here. Do you want to take it, or do you want? I like the games
Yeah.
that Johnny picked. I
Yeah. There's not that many games left. I mean, I think Johnny.
Out that's gonna come out.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna be an hour.
Region 1 and Region 2 playing against Region 3, 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna be an hour away from that game. We didn't talk
about the Region 1 and 2, so basically that's what it is. So yeah, there's 20 games left. So
who wants it? You guys want it or no?
Johnny got it. The only 20 games that are left.
Yeah.
Do you want it, Johnny? Or?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Well, I like what you picked, man. I think that was great, but there's only 20 left. Tony, what were you saying about an hour?
Oh, I said I'm being College Station this weekend, and it's only an hour and 20 minutes away from McLean Stadium in Waco, which is University of Baylor. It's only an hour and 20 minutes away. That's pretty tempting.
I'd go if I was that close. That's gonna be hell of a. I mean, really, that's memories, brother. I mean, shit. If you're that close, you might as well go if you have the time. I would.
I just wonder how many. College kids are gonna be there. Like, I don't want to. I mean, to drive up there and not have a ticket. Like, oh, we're sold out. Because those college games could get sold out too. And I imagine not just people from Austin and Westlake and not just people from Katy are going to go watch that game, because I know there was more than just people from Refugio and Shiner in Victoria, because they don't got 10,000 people between both of those towns. And that's how many people were at that game.
There'll be a lot of people, guys. And listen, just I'd go if I had the opportunity and I was that close. But guys, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. This video will be uploaded tomorrow morning. I'll try to get up by 8 o'clock, but I'm going to take my laptop with me to work. So as soon as I get an opportunity, hopefully it'll be before 8 o'clock. I won't be that busy. I can just really quickly get it uploaded to the YouTube channel. So it won't be on the GTs. It'll be on the Gridiron YouTube. So there is a Gridiron 64 YouTube channel. There is a Parts Cove YouTube channel, and there is a GT Sports Unlimited YouTube channel. So this will be uploaded to the Gridiron 64 YouTube channel. So don't look for it on the GT Sports. Look for the Gridiron 64 YouTube channel, and you can get it there. But it'll also be shared onto the Gridiron 64 Facebook and Twitter page. So you can just hit the link there. If you follow us there, and it'll just take you straight into the Gridiron 64 YouTube channel. And guys, if you like it, and you like our podcast, please share it and become a subscriber. That helps us out. Like I said, we're going to kind of continue with the Gridiron throughout the year. It'll kind of go down to maybe 30 minutes because it won't be as long, because once football season is over completely, we'll be talking about, the realignment. We'll be bringing in coaches, hopefully, at the interview to close out the season. And then we'll be jumping in once we get the realignment set and the districts, so we'll come back on and the guys will be making their early predictions and where they think things are going to go. So the Gridiron will continue till football season comes, but it will kind of shorten a little bit to maybe 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour or something like that. But we'll continue to be on Monday. There's still a lot of things to talk about. Still a lot of players and where they'll be going to seniors and where they'll be playing college. So Tony, Johnny, thank you very much, guys. I will see you guys on Wednesday back at 6:45. I'll send you more information, but we got 2 interviews on the other podcast. So I hope to see you guys there. Get your questions ready. We have a coach coming on, and then we have some players coming on. So I'll be sending you guys messages on Messenger and letting you guys know what's coming if I haven't done that already. And just be ready for Wednesday. And then, of course, we'll see you then. So have a great evening. Tony, be careful, man. Traveling this weekend over to College Station, man. Johnny, y'all have a great evening, guys. And I'll see you on Wednesday. Peace out, brothers.
See y'all later.